Thanks for the wonderful introduction. I always forget sometimes who I really am, and sometimes it's always good to be reminded, I appreciate that. And you would think with all of that training, with all that schooling, with all that stuff, you'd think I would know what I'm talking about. Not really. Not really, but, that's okay, because Raymond might remember, I don't know if he does, but Raymond graduated in 96, I graduated in 97, and my very first Sunday talk at Fillmore Chapel the title of my talk was, I Don't Understand. And I got a little pushback on that title from various people, because you're supposed to know, you're supposed to have it all together, and all that kind of stuff, but I realized that I really don't need to understand. Really, I don't understand how light works, but I know how to flip the switch. I don't have to know how all these different things work and operate and figure them all out, but I know I can use them. And I don't know how God works in my life and other people's life. I just know that the presence of God does. It just does. So my talk title this morning is, Just Do It. Just do it. Just get out there and do it. Take a couple of risks. Even make a few mistakes. Oh my gosh, not a mistake. Or a few failures. Oh my gosh, not failures. It's all part of a process. As a matter of fact, there are some corporations and companies out there right now that have a new way of management. They call it fail fast. They want to implement an idea or a process or a structure or a new product, and they want to fail fast to see where all the glitches are so they could perfect it and get it right. And isn't that the way we kind of grow and develop spiritually? We want to learn our mistakes right off the bat. We want to correct our thinking as we realize it's an error. We want to find new ways of doing what we need to do. So I really want to talk to you today about just doing it. And I've got a little disclaimer I'll do a little bit later on. But basically, I just want you to understand that idea of, and you've heard the idea of analysis paralysis, where you try to figure it out and plan it all out and anticipate it all and see what's all going to go. And that's fine to a certain extent, but my life has just been an open book in terms of just being there, being available, being present, being in the moment, and from that place, seeing where I'm going next. So it's always interesting for me on Sunday morning because people say, well, I just can't wait to hear what you have to say. And I always say, neither can I. Because I never know exactly how it's going to come out. I've got my plan, I got my format, but I pay attention to the energy and I pay attention to where I'm at in the moment, and I just let it be. I just go for it. Is that all right with you? Oh, such a great audience. This is fantastic. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Christina, for inviting me. I'm sure she's having a great time. So here's my notes. One of my notes is a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, and this is what he said that resonated with me today. Many people are alive, but don't touch the miracle of being alive. What does that mean? Many people are alive, but they don't touch the miracle of being alive. I remember one time in a recovery group, someone said, I've been sober for 10 years. And someone next to him said, have you really been sober for 10 years, or are you only sober once 10 times? You see the difference? See, if we develop spiritually and we want to allow ourselves to grow, we want to be open and receptive to our good and to our abundance and to God's grace in our life, we need to continually grow, continually self-assess, continually see, what's going on in my thoughts and my mind and all that kind of stuff to see where I'm going, because really what I'm talking about this morning when I say just do it, I'm talking about the fifth spiritual principle, ain't I? And how does that go? Does anybody remember that one? All righty. We're doing a class on the 5 principles. That's right. The fifth principle basically says it's not enough just to know it, just to know these ideas, just to know these philosophies, just to know these thoughts and concepts. It's not enough just to know the truth. We have to live it. In other words, we have to practice it. In other words, it has to be part of who we are. We just have to go forth with it and go. So that's basically where I'm coming from. And I think it's one of the most important of the 5 spiritual traditions that we have. And I'll talk some more in a minute about the rest of them, but as a foundation for this one. But this one's really important. How many agree? We have to just live the principles. Otherwise, we're not growing. Otherwise, we're stagnant. Otherwise, we're just, we're just in unity another year, 10 times, and we haven't really grown, and we haven't really matured, and we haven't really changed our thoughts and our patterns. We haven't let go of the past. We haven't really created a good vision for our future. So it's important to just put these ideas and these practices into reality, into the truth of who we are. And the great introduction that Marsha gave me. Did you get that off my website, by the way? It seemed like it's just word for word from my website, but she gave me a great introduction. But it's not about all of that stuff. Really, it's not. It just kind of sets a foundation. You have to just kind of do it. It's kind of like learning how to ride a bike. How many know how to ride a bike? So, you can read the books and you can find all the science about it, and you can learn about the centrifugal force of the tires, and you can learn about balance. You can learn about all this stuff, but it doesn't do you a lick of good until what? You get on the bike and you just do it. You just can't tell the difference. It's not even real until you actually do it. I brought my hat with me just to let everybody know that I am a Vietnam veteran. Thank you. And I understand why there's such a difficulty with veterans coming home. Because when you're in the military and you're over in a place like Vietnam, and it was a long time ago, I could tell you all about the things that I saw and the things that I experienced and all that kind of stuff. But you really don't know what it's about. It's a different life. It's a different culture. It's a different everything. And so when people come back from those kind of situations, they feel isolated. Who's going to understand what I just went through? Who's going to understand what I just experienced? Because they did it, see? And if you haven't done it, if you haven't been there, it's so hard to understand. So I can relate to Vietnam veterans, and I just wanted to bring that here to remind me that it's important to listen, to try to understand. I'm glad that understanding is one of the 12 powers for the month. And that it's important to just be present to know, unless you've been there, you probably don't understand. You probably don't understand. But it's the idea of doing it, the idea of going through it, the idea of experiencing it. So, with that great introduction she gave me, some of you probably figured out that I'm a leader in this movement. How many think I'm a leader in this movement? Oh, a couple. And I'm a wellness consultant, and I do go to churches, and I do act as a transitional minister. I do pay attention to their culture and their past and where they're going. I make recommendations. I'm kind of like a field guide. I don't dictate anything to anybody. I figure out where they are, where they want to go, and help them get there. That's what my processes are. And it's all about that. That's what, for me, what leadership is. So as I talk to you today about just doing it, I want to show you that I do what I say, that I am what I say I am. So let me see how this works. That's me on a sea-doo in Lake Lanier, just sitting there. But I also play around and do the donuts and go fast and all that kind of stuff. And this is not too long ago. You can see me with a beard. It's not a very good picture. But I get out there and I just do it. And I hadn't ever ridden a Sea-Doo before, but this was the first time, and it was kind of a challenge. And I got to tell you, two of my fears growing up my whole life, two of them was drowning. Always had a fear of drowning, so there I am on a Sea-Doo. And the other one was a fear of falling from a high place. Those two were my big ones that I tried to overcome, and I try to do things, and I try not to let those fears stop me. How many times do we let fears stop us? Oh my goodness, I don't know if I'll show up with just the right words to say, and I don't know if things are going to work out just right, and oh, well, what are people going to think of me? What are people going to say? And we have all these fears, right? And it stops us from living the life that we're meant to live. What kind of life are we meant to live, do you think? A prosperous life, an abundant life, a healthy life, a life of adventure, a life of joy, a life of happiness, a life of experience, any of those. That's what we're here for, to enjoy life as it is, to give life meaning. Not to find the meaning of life, like she said, but to give life meaning. That's our job, to give it meaning. What does it mean to us? That's important. So there I am on a Sea-Doo. And this is me on a cruise ship, believe it or not. And on this cruise ship, on the very top, they had this ropes course. And I got to tell you, the first day I went up there, I harnessed all up. I got all the safety gear and equipment on and everything. And I got up there, and the first thing was to walk this little plank, metal beam. And I was watching, and the boat's going full speed, you know, and there's water's going, the waves are going. It was a beautiful day, but I was going to take that first step, and I could not do it. I couldn't do it. So I paid attention to what was going on inside me. I stepped aside, I got back, and I spent the day getting myself warmed up and psyched out to do it the next day. I just wasn't mentally prepared for this. This was not only my fear of falling, but drowning too. This was both of them. So there's this one place on this ropes course, and there's many things you do, and you climb these nets and you do all these different things, but there's this one place where you see how that kind of ends. Well, you stand way back here, and the guy says, okay, run, and you're running for the ocean. You're just running for the ocean. You trust. Oh, my gosh. And you run, and you go off the edge, and the thing takes you out over the ocean and takes you down alongside the side of the boat and brings you back down in the stern. Everybody knows where the stern is. And there's a guy there who will catch you. Whew. The scariest part about that is just as I was taking my last step off the plank and I was going to be out in the middle of nowhere, the guy yells something at me. Too late now. Whatever you said, I'm a goner. I just want you to know that I didn't allow the fear to stop me. And I allowed myself to go through this ropes course. I got through the whole thing, not just the beam, but the jumping off, the ringing the bell, the whole bit, the doing the nets. I think I even have another picture later on. But just to let you know that I'm out there doing my thing, right? I'm out there taking some risks. I'm out there enjoying life. You know, somehow in our minds and in our culture we think, well, you know, we're getting to that age of retirement. It's time to settle down. Give me the comfortable couch. Give me my coffee. Let me watch TV and do nothing and hire somebody to mow the lawn, right? Typical idea of retirement, maybe? Not for us. Not for us. As a matter of fact, next month in September, we're taking a bus trip to Washington, D.C. It's an ongoing process, you see. Life doesn't end until it ends, so just enjoy it to the max. Let's see what we got next. This is the Ocoee River whitewater rafting on my 69th birthday, just to let you know. You see the guy in the yellow shirt? That's me. I'm in the yellow shirt. The guy in front of me in the blue shirt, that's David Hiller from Myrtle Beach. And the guy next to him on the right-hand side there with the white shirt, that's Doug Worth from Unity of Chattanooga. And all three of us have about the same age, and we decided we were going to go white water rafting. What was my fear? Drowning. And so I took this opportunity to see, maybe I can heal some of that, maybe. But it was quite an adventure. It was an all-day trip. You start off in the morning, and you go down, and they give you an orientation, and you get in the raft, and it's nice and calm and cool, and then pretty soon you start going down the river, and it gets a little bit rougher and rougher, and then pretty soon you're in the rapids, and pretty soon you're in the white water, and you're bumping against rocks. And this is the whole journey, and I won't go into the whole bit about what they teach you to do, but you just follow the guide's instructions. You say, 2 on the left, that means paddle twice on the left. The people on the left side of the boat will paddle twice. Or 2 backwards on the right. And then we're supposed to go backwards if we're on the right. And then there's one that says, I forget exactly what the command was, but I remember what I was supposed to do. You're supposed to duck, take your oar, put it in the middle of the raft, and just stay ducked down. And I wondered why he would give us that. Turns out there's about a 2 or 3 foot drop that we had to go over. It was kind of like a little fall, and he wanted us to make sure we didn't fall out at that point. But, so that was the instruction, get down in the middle of the boat. And there were several people that did capsize. We got stuck in the current one time, and we couldn't get out until another boat came over the rock and knocked us out. And then one raft in our group did flip, and then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to try to reach your paddle out to try to catch them. They were going too fast. I couldn't catch anybody. But they all made it safe. Nobody got killed that day. But it was an adventure, and it was thrilling, and it was exciting, and I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I had that fear, and I faced it, and I just did it anyway. Does that make sense? Just do it anyway, even if it doesn't make any sense, even if you're skeptical and you don't know, and you just kind of just do it. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, is that it? I'm all done? So part of my leadership is leading by doing, and I've just always enjoyed this work that I allowed myself to get into. And it's always been such a blessing. Everything about it, from applying to getting in, to going through those 2 years, to coming out in the field, to learning getting my licks, getting my education out in the field, all of that kind of stuff just came not because it was pre-planned, maybe because it was preordained, but not because it was pre-planned in my mind anyway, but it was just in the process of doing it, So when I was a young boy, and I'm reminded of this because Susan and I got this gift. She got it from our daughter-in-law, and I got it from my daughter. And it's about writing stories. And so we've been reflecting the last 4 or 5 weeks on our past and our childhood and what our parents were like. And all these memories are coming back to me as I write. And I remember one of the questions was, what was some of your most memorable moments as a child? And the one that came to me is when I was living in Maine, maybe 11 or 12, I don't know. And my escape, my meditation was to go out into the woods in Maine and run full speed in the woods. No path, no trails, just woods. Which means you have to be so concentrated and so focused. Every step matters, whether you're going to stop, pivot on a dime, jump over something, duck under something. You're just running full speed and maneuvering your way through at every moment. So there's no room to think about mom or dad or my brother or school or all these other things that are on our minds. What was I focused on? That moment, and I know many of you probably haven't experienced it, but just kind of try to get a glimpse of what it was like. I got to tell you, I felt like I was one with the woods. The woods and I were one. I felt totally safe, totally comfortable running full speed, paying attention to every single thing that was going on. Every time I had to jump over something, duck under something, whatever it was, I felt safe. I felt connected. I felt not only one with the woods, but I think I felt one with the universe, maybe one with the sacred, maybe one with the presence of God active and alive inside my life. And if you asked me how I did that, I wouldn't be able to tell you, because it's just doing it. You don't know you can do it until you just do it. You know, you don't know what you're capable of until you step out and you take that adventure, and you take that journey, and you allow yourself to be actively involved. Now, I never tripped, I never fell, I never broke a bone. Still to this day, I've never broken a bone. But there was just something about running in the woods by myself. No one to impress, no one to compete against. Just me in the woods. How many can relate to that? This, for me, at a very young age, was my time of meditation. Meditation in those days was being singularly focused on the present moment and nothing else. Does that make sense? I know that planning is important. I know that maybe having a budget is important. I know that there are different things, certain things in our lives that are important. But my life, generally speaking, has just been, just do it. Just do it. When I go to a church, I don't really know what that church is about until I get there. Until I start to feel the energy, until I start to listen to the people, until I start to understand their culture and their background. I just do it. I can't know in advance. You know, right now we're planning on a trip to Washington, D.C., a bus trip on the 21st of September next month. But we're also looking at buying a Class A RV. Okay, everybody, don't. I know you think I'm crazy. That's okay. And we're going to take off in it for a year, a whole year, just be gone for a year. Do we know what we're going to be doing? Do we know who we're going to see? Do we know what spots we're going to go visit? Do we know how it's going to work? Do we know what's going to break? Do we know anything about what it is we're going to be doing? No. We're just going to do it anyway. We're just going to do it. We're going to find out. We're going to learn along the way, and it'll be trial and error. And you know, so many times in my life I think, oh my gosh, fear is going to stop me. And you know, and fear will stop you. I mean, there's no doubt about it. If you're really afraid, the amygdala back here, we call the reptile brain, will take all the energy, all the nourishment of all the blood, everything it needs. Nothing else will work. The frontal cortex won't work. Nothing. The understanding doesn't work. Problem solving doesn't work. None of that. It all goes back here for survival, fight, flight, or freeze, right? And that's it. You're stuck. And how many times does that happen to you? It's happened to me more times than I realize, because a lot of times I'm just not prepared for it. When I went back to Unity Village for interviews, there was a time when we did some of the interviews and we all got to stand up and introduce ourselves. All I have to do is say, I'm David Torres. I'm from California. This is my minister. This is the church I go to, and sit down. And I'm watching everybody in the room do that, and everybody's going along, and they're doing just right. And I'm not panicked at all. I'm not fearful at all. I'm just totally relaxed. And when it came to be my turn, I got up, and I don't know what happened. The amygdala kicked in. I got self-aware and self-conscious too quick. My mind wouldn't work. I almost forgot my own name, where I was from, who my minister was. There was a post that I could lean on because I felt faint. But I just did it anyway. So I know what it is. I know how fear will block us. I know how fear will say, well, that might be good for Dave, but I'm not going to do that. Or, he might have some good ideas and maybe there's some things that I need to do. How many of us have a bucket list, for example? Anybody? Bucket list, couple? Are you working on them? Are you going to get them done? Are you going to get them complete? Are you going to just do it? Because, I kind of feel like my time's running out a little bit. If I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? If I don't live the life that I imagine now, when am I going to do it? If I don't walk confidently in the direction of my vision, how am I going to achieve it? There has to be a way to get past that idea of the fear, get past the idea of what people are going to think about me, how people are going to judge me. What if I make a mistake? What if I fail? All of those things that go on in our mind that says, we're not enough. And a guy like me comes along and says, yes, you are. Yes, you are. I promise you, you're a magnificent creation. You're endowed with all kinds of miraculous abilities and 12 powers and all these kind of stuff. And you say, but you don't really know me. You don't really know who I am. You don't know what I've thought. You don't know what I've done. You don't know what I've been through. How can you say that about me? You don't know me the way I know me. And my answer to that is, if you knew you the way God knows you, you'd have a different perspective. You'd have a different understanding. Because God sees you as perfect, with all your faults, with all your mistakes, with all the shame and embarrassment and things that you're carrying around that you need to unload off yourself. If you could know you the way God knows you, you'd feel a little bit different about how it works. So I read this little quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, a tremendous Vietnam monk, Zen monk, just died last year in January. And he's had a lot of good things to say, and I've got a lot of good quotes from him, and I like to follow him on YouTube and different things. But this is what Jesus had to say. Anybody interested in what Jesus had to say? Any takers? Let's see. He says on Matthew chapter 6, verse 25, he says, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life. Have you heard that before? What you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body and what you will wear. Is not your life more than food, and your body more than clothing? Then he goes on to say, look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into the barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not more valuable than them? He's trying to make a comparison. He's trying to say how magnificent you are, how valuable you are, how loved you are, how appreciated you are, what strengths you are, what miracles you can perform. He says, don't worry about all that stuff. And, I like this part, can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your span of life? Isn't that a great concept? How does worrying, I'm not sure, I better not do that, don't invest in that, all these fears that come up, how does any of that worrying add one day, 1 hour to your life? But rather, do we let it subtract from our life? Do we let it take away from the life that we could be living? Am I making any sense? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Because for me, this is what it's all about. This is what life is all about. This is what interacting with people is all about. So here's the deal. What is it that you've been putting off that you need to do, And my encouraging words are going to be, just do it. Now, you can think of this yourself. What is it that you need to do? Do you need to make amends to somebody? I don't know. Do you need to forgive somebody? I don't know. Are we afraid to make that phone call because we might get rejected and they might say stuff about us that we don't want to hear? And that's the fear that's keeping us from doing what we think we need to do to feel whole, to feel complete? Is that what it is, or are we willing to just do it? Just do it. Let the phone call be whatever the phone call is going to be. Let them say whatever it is they're going to say. Let them reject you if that's where they're coming from. We have no control over what other people think about us anyway. We just barely have control over what we think about ourselves. Isn't that true? So why give that so much energy? Why give that so much power? Just do it. Just do it. How about a brief time of meditation? And what I'd like to do in a meditation is before we actually meditate, I want to set it up just a little bit different than normal. How many would agree with me that there's a lot of stuff going on in the world today? A lot of turbulence, a lot of insecurity, a lot of bad news out there, right? There's a lot of stuff that's affecting our nervous system, that's affecting our emotions, that's affecting us in different ways. So here's an example of what I think meditation could be like. A storm is brewing and we're in a house and we have all the windows open and the doors open. So what happens when the storm comes? That's a good idea to do that. But if we don't do that, the wind comes in, creates chaos, blows everything around, the house is a mess, papers all over the place, plants blown over. You get my drift? This is what it's like to live out in the world sometimes. Everything's chaotic. Nothing is certain, and everything is leery, to say the least. So what meditation does, meditation allows us to close those windows, close those doors, be safe in the peace and the calm of the moment. So what are our windows and what are our doors? Here's our windows right here, our eyes. We allow ourselves to close our eyes, close off the outer world, close off all that chaos, close off all that wind blowing all of that stuff in on us, close off our ears, close off our senses, close off our sense of touch. Just be in the here and now, in the silence, in the stillness, and in the quiet. So we're going to practice a little bit of silence this morning. Is that okay? Well, we're going to do it anyway. So I'll invite you right now to close your windows, close your doors, go into your inner sanctuary where it's peaceful and it's quiet, and there's no winds blowing, and there's no chaos. And then in this moment right now, there's nothing to concern us. There's nothing for us to worry about. There's nothing for us to be anxious about. And what would it gain us, even if we just chose to go that route anyway? Not a single day. Not a single day. Not a single moment. So we're going to get quiet. We're going to get still. I'm going to invite you to take a nice deep breath. And know the presence of God right here, right now. The energy of God. The love of God, the power and the protection of God right here, right now. Don't let your mind think about it. Let your body experience it. Let your body feel safe, feel secure, feel loved, feel appreciated. That's the truth of who you are. You know it. Allow yourself to feel it right now, right this moment. Just allow yourself to do it. Just do it. And I would suggest and invite you to think of a happy time in your life, a joyous moment in your life. For me, it was running in the woods. You know, for you, it might be the birth of a newborn. It might be the day you got married. It might be any joyous, memorable occasion that you'd like to relive and re-experience and revitalize as who you are in your life story right here and right now in the stillness and in the quiet. So go ahead and get that image. Get that thought. Get that experience. Remember what it felt like. Remember the happiness. Remember the joy. Remember the laughter. Remember the excitement. Remember the tension. Remember the not knowing. And it's all just okay. It's all just okay as we rest in the energy and in the love and in the spirit and in the presence of the divine. Let us take a few moments right now in the quiet and in the stillness. You have the power within you. You get to set the attention. You get to write the script of your life. You get to decide who you are and whose you are. Just allow yourself to be free. Just allow yourself to just do it. And as I invite you back into the room, and I invite you back into the space, we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for this morning. Thank you, God, for this life. Thank you, God, for the many experiences I've experienced and all the experiences yet to come. And here's my one little disclosure or disclaimer that I wanted to share with you. But David isn't just doing it dangerous. What if I spend all my money? What if my relationship ends? What if this? What if that? What if all these other things happen? So here's my thing, the last thing I want to share with you. That's why it's the fifth principle. You need to ground yourself in the oneness principle, in the self-I am principle, in the prayer and meditation principle, And what was the other one? God is, I am. Think it and pray it and live it, right? So those are the foundation. If you're connected with God, if you're connected with Source, if you're connected in prayer and meditation, if you're connected with the oneness, if you've done all the first four, then you don't have to worry about the fifth. Just do it. God bless.